And your thoughts on working with Invader 1?
Invader 1, you see, when I first went to Puerto Rico, it was before the internet really took off. YouTube, I don't know if it existed because I really never even discovered YouTube until I had finished my whole run in Puerto Rico. Because this was before the time where you even had like text messaging was just starting. You could watch real videos on the phone. And when I lived in Puerto Rico, you'd have to go to an internet cafe to get on the internet. So I only knew very limited what happened with Brody at that time, and I didn't know much about Brody because, as I said, there was no YouTube, so I'd only heard about him. I always hated Invader. I always found him arrogant. I never shook his hand. I never. That wasn't necessarily because I hated him. That was just, again, I hadn't been taught good manners at the start. But as I went on, I did start shaking everyone's hand. But I never felt the urge to shake his hand, and I never liked Invader or respected him.
So you mentioned Bruiser Brody, and what are your thoughts on Bruiser Brody? How do you look? How do you look at him? Like, how do you look up to him? And how has he impacted your career?
Well, as I was in Puerto Rico more, I actually learned about him because I became friends with a lot of people in Puerto Rico, and Bruiser Brody was obviously a huge star there. So I learned all about Bruiser Brody. And then when I switched to WWC Puerto Rico, they sold the DVD of Bruiser Brody's best matches, which I'm sure they never gave a cut to Brody's wife, but the ad would always play on the WWC TV show. So the ad of all the highlights for this DVD always intrigued me. Then I was starting to learn about him, and then I knew this. I learned the story as I was there of what happened. And in WWC, we actually wrestled quite often, actually, for big shows in that stadium where he was killed, and I was a heel, so I was in the heel dressing room, and I never even could look in that shower. I was always really sick in being in there, and that was again before I even really became the massive fan now that I am of Bruiser Brody. But I just remember being in there. I would always just imagine what it would be like um, that night. So yeah, it's pretty bad what happened to him. I just can't imagine people just sitting there lacing up their boots while someone bleeding to death on the dressing room floor. That just sickens me. And it's just sad that Invader wrestled later that night and ended up remaining on his booker and never was punished for doing what he did to Bruiser Brody. So as I learned more, I became a fan of his, read his wife's book. It just bothered me more and more and more. And I don't even, like, I hate Invader so much now. I don't even know what would happen if I ever ran into him again. And I just think it's a travesty of justice that even the company was not punished, because it's very bizarre that this was the booker, a man in a power position working for the company. The murder took place in a dressing room of the company. The company still let the guy wrestle later in the night that killed him. So it was just it's a disturbing situation, and as long as I interview wrestlers, I'm always gonna ask about Bruiser Brody because I just want his legacy to live on, and I hope that one day, I don't care if it's in Jose Gonzalez's dying days, I hope that he is brought to justice, and I hope that word gets out about this enough that he's not considered a hero in Puerto Rico anymore, because he was considered a hero there for a long time, and he really shouldn't be because he's really a piece of scum. I hate him.